Hey guys, it's a steaming pile of ship here, and in today's video we're going to be taking a look at the IJN Tier 6 battleship Mutsu, and we're in Ranked. It is quite different for me to show a ranked battle, and certainly this isn't going to be as exciting, I don't think, as some of the battles that I've shown. But I had someone who wanted to see if I could do a little review on it. They were commenting on a different video asking if I could make a little bit of a commentary, I guess, and since I'd been using the Mutsu and I had a decent game, I decided, well, let's go ahead and do that. So here we are. Now we're heading here on riposte towards the Bravo cap, and it's kind of weird, this is a symmetrical map, and yet everybody seems to only go towards B if they're on the south, and A if they're on the north spawn. Now, one of the reasons that I've been using the Mutsu so much is it has very, very good penetration on these guns. And we'll get to that in a little bit, but we are going to take a few shots at the gallant, or excuse me, the guide up there. I saw a friendly guide, or friendly gallant, wow. We did take a shot at him, and we got one overpen. And this is something that, if you're going to play ranked and you expect to get far, you definitely need to be willing to, even if you're in a battleship, shoot at destroyers. I've seen a lot of battleships save their salvos for cruisers, and I really don't get that because destroyers are really what wins ranked games, so taking shots at destroyers is very important. But now that there is no destroyer over there, we'll go ahead and take a shot at the enemy Fuso. And let's see, they should be landing pretty soon. And there we go. Now, I was talking about the penetration on these guns, and since they're 16-inch guns at Tier 6, they can pretty much overmatch the bow armor of any ship in the, I guess, pool of ships that you will see at Tier 6, and that is very, very important in Ranked, being able to deal damage to pretty much any target you want. We'll see if we can't take another shot at the other Fuso here. The reason I used the Mutsu over something like the Fuso was because of these guns. Now the Fuso has really good armor, but small and numerous guns when compared to the Mutsu. The Mutsu, on the other hand, is pretty much the opposite. It has a lot fewer guns, and the armor on it is pretty trash. I think it's somewhere around 76 millimeters of Citadel armor, and this is a battleship, so I'll try to remember to look at that in port, but in ranked, that really is a weakness because there are a lot of people, there's not a lot of people. 7 versus 7 obviously is less than a random battle, but the thing is, when you get spotted, when people start shooting at you, you're generally going to get focused. Now we're going to pop our scout plane. I want to try and see over the island here. I think I can't quite aim low enough to Citadel the other Fuso without hitting the island, so we'll go for the other guy since he's fairly broadside. But when you get focused by all the enemies, you certainly can lose a lot of hit points very, very quickly due to the fact that you have no armor, and that is certainly a weakness that the ship has, especially in ranked. I want to say, I recorded 2 replays, or had 2 replays that were fairly similar. I ended up showing this one, but I think we'll be able to see that later on. But don't hold me to it just yet. You can take my word for it, though, that it does happen. Getting a little frustrated there because some of those shells hit the island, and the other ones are probably going to hit the other island, but, well, the terrain indicator warned me, and I didn't heed its words. Of course, you shouldn't always go by what the terrain indicator says, because sometimes you just do happen to be able to arc the shells past, or at least some of them, so yeah. We are waiting for the Barioni here. We want to protect our friendly Fubuki over here, who's being spotted most likely by the Anshan. The Gallant is over there too. A Shinonome on our Gallant killed the Shinonome over to the north, so we do have a decent, well, I shouldn't say advantage there, but we have a rough idea of where the enemy ships are. The battleships, they're up in the north. Excuse me, I was losing words. Where the battleships are in the north, the cruiser and the destroyers are in the south, and knowing where all of the enemies are is a very big advantage in ranked. Now you don't really see me getting smoked up very much, but I'm trying to hide behind the islands over here, and that certainly is something that you want to do in pretty much any ship if you can. Especially the Mutsu, because again I was talking about the trash armor. It really is not very good at all. The Buddiani here is slowing down to dodge shots from another enemy, so we'll go ahead and try and pull the trigger now. While it looks like he's fairly slow, he should have to build up more speed if he wants to dodge all of those. So we'll watch them go in, and we just barely get one overpen, so that's definitely not what we wanted. But these guns, since they are 16 inches, when they do hit, like the Citadel, I mean, you saw me Citadel that Fuso earlier, the extra caliber, I guess, since it is larger than any other battleship gun at tier 6, it does do a little bit more damage, and that is something that you ought to keep in mind if you're considering this ship. Couple shells going over there. Again, I mentioned don't always follow that terrain indicator. He stopped again, and nothing. Yeah, these guns still have that battleship accuracy, or I should say inaccuracy, so you will get trolled like that. I mean, he was a fairly broadside target, completely unmoving when I fired, and we missed all of them. Now, he was undetected, so I have no clue. He could have put on a burst of speed right there and dodged him, but I don't think that's what happened, sadly. Enemy Anshan, we are trying to reverse around the corner here, and again, you really do have the benefit of being able to shoot battleships through their armor, but do not ignore shooting at destroyers. The only reason I didn't shoot at the Anshan right there is because he is going forward of where I am at, and basically he's keeping the island in between me and him. But he is turning, and if he stays right here, I should be able to get a few shots on him before he smokes up or gets to cover. And even then, he's close enough, and I know roughly where he's at, that I'll probably end up being able to hit him with a few shots anyways. And there we go. We did about 5,000 damage, I think, to him right there. And that was about a third of his health, if I remember the hit point pool on the Anshan correctly. That's the third of his health that he just got taken away from him by me, simply because I was actually willing to shoot him. So if you are a battleship player in ranked, again, I can't stress it enough, shoot other destroyers that are out there. Friendly Gallant here is smoking me up. This is, again, if you're a destroyer player, this is something you want to do. You want to give smoke to your friendly battleships and cruisers, as well as destroyers if they need it. If they're coming under fire and they don't have smoke and there's no way they can really get away and you can help them, go ahead and give them smoke too. It's not a waste if you're keeping them alive so they can be useful later. Fuso's going broadside, we are taking the shot, and you do see me basically staying in the same general area that I've been in the entire time. That's basically how ranked is as we get a nice citadel. You want to deny the enemy your cap. The caps are the key. You can win a ranked game without sinking a single ship, and I've done it before. You basically just have to make sure that the enemy team can't get to your cap and get the points from it. Firing at the Fuso, he is turning out, so these are probably going to miss mostly, but maybe dispersion will be nice. And we do get 2 overpens, so I guess it's not a complete loss, but I mentioned that the Fuso and the Mutsu are fairly different because the Fuso has a lot of guns and they are smaller, but it has much better armor. This is because, of course, Mutsu is, I believe, like a 1930s or maybe even 20s. It was basically the former A hull of the Nagato, and basically it was a little bit earlier rendition of it, and there's a nice 4,000 damage. But basically, you don't have the armor that was added on later, which really makes it, again, struggle when you try to tank. But the problem now is we've lost the same amount of ships as the enemy, but as I was talking about the caps earlier, we managed to capture later than they did, which basically puts us at the disadvantage of not having Well, we have to advance, basically. If we want to win, we have to go to them. They can just sit still right there if they want, and we can't do a thing. You know, their Budiani could run away, the battleships could keep our destroyers out of the cap, but they both look like they're trying to attack the cap right now. And basically, this is how you win ranked. You wait for the other team to make a mistake, just as this Budiani is doing, sailing fairly broadside. Well, now that he's turning in, but he's sailing fairly close to me, and if I can get the shot on him, I'm certainly going to take it to help out my friendly Fubuki, whom he's now chasing after. Waiting for him to go back broadside, he's completely ignoring me. He most likely knows someone's about to shoot at him, but the problem is he wants to kill that destroyer a little bit too badly. And we'll barely nick him. We'll get the high caliber, but the back guns are opening up now, and we get 2 citadels and kill him. Now we have a little bit of an advantage, but the problem is our Fubuki is getting chased down, and the enemy battleships are essentially going to help their gallant kill my Fubuki. You look, the Fubuki has, he's losing more hit points. He doesn't have his smoke. Speaking of smoked again, I just got smoked up. We really need to kill one of these ships so that they don't have the advantage anymore, because in a minute, the Fubuki is going to be dead from the enemy battleships and their gallant. In any second now, he should be most likely dying. And there it goes. Sorry, I was trying to wait on it. I knew I had pushed in the end of this replay, but I forgot why exactly that was, or when that happened, and I figured, well, this Fubuki's probably about to die. But there you go, you see me in chat saying pushing. Now again, this is only something you really want to do if you have the disadvantage. Now the advantage of the Mutsu's guns being really great is going to become fairly apparent in a little bit. The enemy Fuso is going to be angling, well, both of them are. Well, actually, spoiler alert, pretty sure this guy isn't angled when I find him. Yep, he's perfectly broadside. But the fact is, when you have to push, and that was very unlucky. I think I hit a damage-saturated portion of his ship and just did no damage with that penetration. But essentially, when you find enemies that are angled, you can pretty much shoot right into anywhere on the ship and get damage. I mean, obviously, you don't want to shoot like the belt armor if you can help it, but Now the Mutsu, I did not mention this earlier, but you do get torpedoes, and they're a very bad arc, and they don't have the most range. I mean, they're fairly good with, I think, 7 kilometers, but realistically, you don't want to be relying on them. I put them in the water simply because I knew that I couldn't angle towards both these guys, and I probably could have gotten deleted by one of them at least. So I wanted to have torpedoes in the water to hopefully finish the Fuso off if I were to have gotten killed there. But the problem now is the enemy destroyer is spotted somewhere to my right, while I have a battleship to my left. And you're going to see here just how bad the armor on the Mutsu is. Now I went fully broadside, which again, big no-no when you're in a battleship or really any ship. But you see just how, cornered I basically am. The enemy smoke screen over there indicates, yes, destroyer, but I can't face him, face the BB, as the guy in chat is telling me to do, because as soon as I do, I'm opening myself up for torpedoes. And once again, very, very easy for you to take damage in this ship. We finally have the enemy gallant spotted over there for a very, very small moment. Well, I would say small moment, but now he's getting shot at, and immediately I know I'm in for torpedoes. Now I can finally turn out because there are a few rocks in between me and the enemy Fuso, but that's basically luck. And here we go, trying to finish off the gallant. We miss with the first salvo, we turn back to see what's going on, miss with the second salvo, and it's basically going to be up to the friendly destroyer over here pretty soon. Because I don't have the rear guns able to fire, and realistically, if I try and turn to fire with them, I'm going to eat a torpedo. Ironically enough, the enemy Fuso there manages to eat one of the torpedoes I fired at him earlier, and since I was expecting them, the torpedoes are there. We dodge them very, very easily. And this is basically, Again, I talk about how great the guns are on the Gallant, and realistically, or excuse me, the Mutsu, they are what make this ship. Um, you do give up a lot to have them, but they certainly are worth it when the situation for them happens, when you need them. So certainly not the most exciting game, but it is ranked battles, so that is kind of expected. We didn't do that much damage. When you think of a random battle, this would be, I don't want to call it average, but this game wouldn't have been based on damage. It wouldn't have been a game that I would normally show. But this is showing the major strengths and weaknesses of this ship in ranked battles. We did 102,000 damage, which, when you consider that there were, I think, only 3 battleships, and this, of course, is ranked, so there are 7 ships on the enemy team total, which is much fewer. It really does show you that you can do quite a bit of damage, relatively speaking, towards your task. 4 Citadel hits, with 2 of those deleting the enemy cruiser, and 2 of those being against other battleships. Amusingly, we did land 1 torpedo hit, and the torpedoes they're basically an after effect on this ship, or an afterthought. You don't really want to get in the range where you need to use them, but they certainly can be useful as they were here. Or, well, I shouldn't say they were useful here because we ended up not killing the guy, but they can be useful, and I've certainly had the games where they are. I'll talk a little bit more about them in port. Anyways, you can see I'm rank 3 here. Devastating strike, high caliber. That was basically, again, me killing the Budyani and then basically just spewing out enough damage to get high caliber, which is essentially how you want to play the battleships in ranked. Detailed report, 95,000 damage with the main guns. Secondaries, I don't think they did anything, actually. Oh, no, they did 1,000 damage, excuse me. I was looking up here for some reason, don't really know why, but 5,000 damage by the torpedoes. They're not powerful torpedoes. Again, they're pretty much an afterthought, but they can be handy, and if you're going to have torpedoes on a battleship, that's better than not having them. So, yeah. Tanking wise, 53,000. Again, we were smoked up a lot of that. We also decided to basically hide behind the islands for a good portion of that. Really, we took most of this damage during the final push, and that final push is very, very reminiscent of all of the pushes that I've had to make in this, in the Mutsu during ranked. You really can't tank like you could in something like an Arizona. I mean, again, I was fairly broadside there, but I think I was probably angled enough that if I were in something like an Arizona, that guy probably wouldn't have gotten Citadel hits each and every time he shot. I mean, there was 2 salvos, and he pretty much Citadeled me both times. And of course, since you don't have very much armor, you still take a lot of, normal penetration damage and IFHE damage. Tanking potential damage, we did 1.1 million if you round up, so we did a decent amount on there, but again, this is not a battleship that you want to be tanking with. Moving on to the credits, well, it is a ranked game, so that's going to make it weird. I also had some different flags, and I don't know if you can hear it, but there's a dog barking outside, so I apologize if you can hear that. But I have the camouflage and the little flags on here, and this might have been the daily double. Let's see. No, it wasn't. Okay, but don't expect this to be your normal experience and credit output. Flags and whatnot make that a little bit hard. And let's go to the build that I've got for the ship. Hey guys, I just had this little afterthought after I did the build segment, which is coming up next, but I wanted to kind of throw this out here before we get there. I'm thinking about making a Twitter or a Facebook or something for the page. That way, if you want to know, if you're like, hey, normally he tries to upload by now, what's going on? I'll try and, if I make this, I'll try and, be able to tell you, hey, I'm uploading now, flat tire, broken Wi-Fi, dog died. I don't know. Hopefully my dogs don't die. I like my little dogs. I don't really like dogs, but I like my dogs. Not important. But if you see a Twitter and or Facebook link in the description, that is going to be potentially towards a page where I will try and keep you as up to date with uploads and whatnot as I possibly can. Again, I wanted to throw this in here before the build part because I apologize. The build is, I think, 14 minutes long. So my apologies on that. You can skip if you want. But I do talk a lot about how the ship performs in ranked, stuff like that. So if you are serious about using the ship in there, it is important information, and that's why it's long. Anyways, on to that, since it is such a long segment. Right, so I'm going to dive right in because we have a lot to cover about this ship since we are talking about something to use in competitive mode. I want to go to the armor really quickly. 305 millimeters, 229, slightly above that. You don't have very thick armor belt. Let's go pop the Arizona up, which is basically one of the best armed ships in ranked, besides the Byron, of course. First of all, you have these nice torpedo bulges, but we're not really going to cover those too much. 343, 203 below the waterline. Let's see, I think I can turn that. Nope, it's the wrong one. Is it this? I think I can. Well, basically 343 millimeters for the the armored deck. Not the deck armor. Excuse me, the belt armor. That's a huge advantage. You also have, as I mentioned on the Mutsu, you take this away, you have 76 millimeter of this armor on your Citadel. It's very, very easy to eat Citadels in this, especially at range, especially against Warspites, because the Warspite has very good penetration. It shares the advantage that you have, with the guns being able to basically lull pen. Essentially, oop, that was not it. Don't know why I clicked Dunkirk. But essentially, you're going to eat a lot of damage because if you get, that plunging fire that the Warspite's got, it can really wreck you a new one with this 76 millimeter thick, or I should say 76 millimeter thin armor. So, very thin armor on the Mutsu. I do want to point out one more thing about the armor, and that is the torpedo defense. If I can find it, holy crap. 24% torpedo protection damage reduction. Let's go back to the Arizona here. 39%. Let's go to the Fuso. 34%. Mutsu, 24. So you really do lose out a lot. You lose a lot of health whenever you eat torpedoes. So yeah. Anyways, we're going to the consumables. Premium, all of them. No reason to not. You're in competitive mode. You should have all of these premium. To be honest with you, if you don't take these premium, I kind of think you're selfish because your cheapness could potentially lose 6 other players a star. So go ahead and get these all premium. In my opinion, you should be obligated to do so if you're in competitive. Can't make you do that. Neither can Wargaming. Well, they could if they wanted to, but they don't. So I beg of you, premium consumables, please. In the upgrades, main armaments mod 1, these turrets do have a tendency to get, incapacitated. The only other option here, now that they've moved these, I don't want it, but I clicked on it. But they moved the special upgrade, the spotting aircraft mod 1. Actually, I think this might have already been here. Can't remember now. But this is a decent pick because the spotting aircraft that you get on here is very, very handy for shooting over islands that you normally wouldn't be able to see over. Like, you can even see it in the background here. Up here, I can see what's behind those islands a little bit. I'm like this? Nope, not at all. Now I can see. Now I can't. Look right here. I don't see that there's a little red house there. But now I see there's a little red house here. So, yeah. Same thing with ships. I know it's kind of a bad example here, but yeah, you saw me using my spotter aircraft a lot, so having the spotter aircraft up a little bit longer is always helpful. And it's good for shooting into smoke screens too. Get that little bird's eye view, you know exactly where the tracers are coming from. You can shoot in fairly accurately. I've deleted ships that are hiding in smoke because I've got that spotter plane. Now, aiming systems mod 1 for the second slot. There's nothing you want in the second slot but this. Get the accuracy that you need to make the ship work. Main battery mod 2 is not a good choice because realistically your turrets turn slow enough that you're going to need expert marksman. This is going to lower your DPM, just use expert marksman. AA guns, I'm pretty sure your anti-aircraft is 2 dudes up in the crow's nest here sharing 1 Arasaka. That could be a really dirty joke. Don't, okay, yeah, let's forget I used that example, but your AA is trash on the ship, but making it better really doesn't work. Secondaries, let's go and tell you why that's a bad choice. First of all, they don't have very good range. Let's see. 5.3 kilometers without... No, I'm pretty sure that's with AFT. Yes, with AFT, 5.3 kilometers. Yeah. These secondaries are not very good. They don't have very much range. The Mutsu does not have armor. Realistically, if you need to rely on them, you're either pretty much screwed already, or you're playing this very, very wrong, and you probably shouldn't be watching a ranked commentary on it. Not to be insulting, but really, if you're charging in with a Mutsu, you're not playing the ship properly. These, let's turn that off, that's annoying. These right here, you know, it's identical on the other side. These are the only ones that shoot high explosive shells, so even if you had to rely on these secondaries, you're not starting fires with them. All of these these ones in the side barbettes here, or casemates I should say, these all fire armor piercing, so you don't start fires at all with them. And that basically means these secondaries are trash in all ways, so don't buff your secondaries. Going here, damage control system mod 1, no other choice, we all know. Here's where you can get pretty decent results with either of these. I use steering gears mod 2. Your turning circle radius is 770 meters. Let's look at the Dunkirk because it's the closest. 730, not very good. Warspite, 550. Arizona, 640, so pretty middle of the pack. Fuso is 740 as well, so pretty bad as well. But when you have to compete against Arizonas and Warspites with your turning, having the better rudder shift does make the difference. Especially when you have such a bad torpedo belt that we talked about. 24% reduction, not very good. The other things you could use, damage control system mod 2. There's a lot of high explosive spam going around. I see an HE spamming Fuso in every game, and it would be newbie in a random battle, but honestly, when everybody focus fires in ranked, having someone like a battleship with a very, very good fire chance will look really quickly. Let's see, HE shell, 25% chance of fire, and you have 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12 guns. That's a very good chance you're going to get set on fire by an HE spamming Fuso. Being able to reduce the amount of time you're set on fire is very, very handy. So, damage control system mod 2, not a bad choice. Finally, if you're using a lot of cover, or if you want to, you're using smokescreen a lot, which is very, very valid tactics in ranked, being able to accelerate out of those positions when you need to isn't a bad thing. Having the extra 50% time for reaching full power is a very, very nice advantage. You know, when you're stuck inside a smokescreen and all of a sudden you see some torpedoes coming, being able to zoom out of there just a little bit quicker is not a bad thing. Or just, when the smoke fades and you need to get to real cover. Very, very handy. Now, I apologize, this is not the captain spec to what I had. This is my Yamato captain. Essentially, I used the same captain, but once I ranked out here, I totally blanked out, and I didn't actually take like a screenshot or do this section of the video, so this is not what I used in ranked. I did start with priority target. That's very handy for knowing if someone's targeting you like a destroyer. It might be, you might be kind of off in an area where you don't think anyone's, at or looking at you. Maybe you're behind an island trying to heal up, something like that. Knowing that something is looking at you is very handy. And if it's, you see the number 1, okay, something's detecting me, something's, targeting me. You see it go to 0, all right. You see it go back to 1, very, very good indicator that there are torpedoes in the water and you need to start taking evasive maneuvers. This only shows up if you have main battery units targeting you, so yeah. Slot 2, Expert Marksman. We all know why. You're a tier 6 battleship. They pretty much all have bad turret traverse. I think Dunkirk is the only one with better, and quite frankly, the Dunkirk has forward turrets, so that's not even a real issue for it. Anyways, Superintendent here, get the extra heal. The plane really isn't necessary to have extra. I don't think I've ever gone through them all, but, you know, it's just a nice side effect. Finally, you're going to want to start with Concealment Expert, I think. Well, actually, you could go either Concealment Expert first, or you could go Fire Prevention. With Concealment Expert, you get your concealment down to like 14.2 kilometers, maybe. Something like that. Fire Prevention merges your center superstructure area, which is normally 2 zones, into 1. So it's very handy, and I will be getting us back with the last point that I need. Excuse me. Throat's getting a little dry. But these are both, this is what I would use, you know, Concealment, Fire Prevention. It's a toss-up which one you want first, because you are going to be spending a decent amount of time in smoke, and 14 kilometers isn't that much of an advantage. I mean, you're still going to get spotted from a very long distance away. If the enemy destroyers are doing their jobs, you're still going to be spotted. So Fire Prevention, Concealment, again, you can choose which one, but yeah. After that, you're going to probably want to spec into Vigilance or potentially Basics of Survivability. I think Vigilance is a little bit better with your bad torpedo belt, but yeah, both of them are good choices. Finally, you're going to want Adrenaline Rush. I think that brings us, yeah, that should bring us directly to 19 points. Adrenaline Rush is very, very handy. These are very powerful guns, and since you do take a lot of damage, having the extra reload when you are down on hit points is very, very nice. Alternatively, this is a very situational thing I've had happen, but I've actually had my engine and my steering knocked out by Last Stand, I think 4 or 5 times this season. I wouldn't recommend it for random battles, but for ranked battles, the thing is, when you have these HE Fusos, and you'll see them, if you haven't seen them somehow, either you're really lucky or you're really unlucky, because it does do very, very good things. But the HE Fusos actually can take your engine and steering out if they fire HE and it lands anywhere near them. That's pretty much forcing you to instantly repair it if it's like the rudder and you're in a turn, because if you don't repair it, pretty soon you're going to be broadside, and that's a death sentence there. So Last Stand, not a bad choice. And I think that's it. Oh no, let's go over flags real quick. Rest in peace, my India Yankee flags that I have pretty much lost all of you. But you're going to want that to help prevent, well, your fire damage is decreased because it puts them out 20% better or faster. India Delta, 20% more hit points gained, using your heal. Again, very, very, you take a lot of, excuse me. My throat is really dry, like I say. Thought I had to cough there. But you do take a ton of damage, so getting a little bit more back from your heal, very, very important. After that, I'm out of speed flags, but this is a fairly quick battleship with 26.5 knots, so having a little more speed isn't a terrible thing. Then go ahead and get your November Foxtrot to help your consumables come back quicker. After that, if you have Juliet, Charlie, the non-detonation flags, not a bad choice there either. I very much like them. You don't really need them in a battleship too much, but I have been detonated by the random torpedo in ranked in my Arizona, and that's got an even thicker torpedo belt than the Mutsu. So if you really don't want to, get detonated, go ahead and get Juliet, Charlie. Anyways, I think that's all I wanted to go over tonight on the ship. So if you're still in ranked, grinding it out, and you've got the ship and you want to try it, go for it. It's not a terrible choice. I know you'll get a lot of flack from it, but if you learn to use her strengths and work around her weaknesses, you will do fine. Again, I went on like a 6 or 7 win streak with her, after basically bouncing up one, down one, up one, down one. That was a very, very nice boost to me, hitting rank 1, and maybe it'll work for you too. Anyways, good luck. I will catch you in the next video. I am going to try and get one on the Gallant. I do have it. I have a ranked video for it, but if I'm completely honest, it's pretty dang boring, so I'm going to try and get like a random battle probably. to show it off. But this is a steaming pile of ship. I will catch you next time. You guys have a good one. I'm signing off.